welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. Helen, Hannah and myself are going to share with you our experience of revitalising recruitment through transformation, affectionately known within the Co-op as recruitment transformation. So I think the first thing I'd like to say is it's so good to see everybody in person. I think this is the first event I've been to since we started easing ourselves out of lockdown, and we've spent the last 2 years, or certainly I have, gazing into the world of Teams, and when I have been in meetings, trying to guess who's behind the mask, which invariably I've got wrong, and it's always a little bit embarrassing. So it's been great to come together this morning and to share with you our work at Central England Co-op on recruitment. There will be the opportunity at the end of the session to ask any questions that you have, and I would really encourage you to do that. The kind of purpose and intent that we've set the session up with is to be really open, honest and candid about our experience that largely has taken place over lockdown. So I think what I'd want to say is it really is all about the art of the possible in making things happen. So I think what we'll do now is we'll just introduce ourselves, and then we'll give you a little bit of background on Central England Co-operative before we get into the work on recruitment. So Hannah, would you like to go first?
Absolutely, thank you very much. I'm Hannah Huxley-Greene. I'm Project and Change Manager for this particular piece. And Helen?
Not that you won't be able to hear me anyway from the back. I'm Helen Stone, and I was the project lead for recruitment transformation.
And I'm Jen Chance, and I head up the talent function at Central England Co-operative, which is essentially the candidate to colleague journey start to finish. So everything from leadership and learning, attraction, recruitment and reward. So, a little bit about us as a business then. You'll be able to read all about our heritage, but a couple of things that I just wanted to pull out for you. The first being that we are independent from the Co-op group. So I know that you'll all be familiar with the Co-op brand, and some of you will shop in Co-ops that are blue and grey, others will see green stores, and it's a very different business model to what I was expecting when I joined the organisation. So we are completely independent. We're called Central England Co-operative, and it's very much our own business. The link to group for us is through the buying. So through FRTS, Co-op Group do the majority of our buying for us. We are the largest independent cooperative in the UK and just shy of £1 billion turnover. And through lockdown, I would say that actually we performed really well. So I think one of the kind of unique superpowers that we have as a business is our community footprint, and that served us really, really well during lockdown. We've recently launched our society purpose, which you'll see at the top, is creating a sustainable society for all. And that is really important in terms of underpinning everything that we do, whether it's from a financial perspective, an environmental perspective, or there's a word there, humanly, I'm not quite sure it is a word, but from a people perspective too. And then from a recruitment perspective, important to say that we don't have a centralised recruitment function. We empower all our line managers to own recruitment for themselves. Now, lockdown gave us lots of challenges in that space because very, very quickly, because of our stores and our footprint in the community, we needed to recruit lots of temporary staff. And that gave us lots of insight from a manager perspective as to why our current process and approach wasn't working. So that's a little bit about our background and our heritage. I'm now going to hand over to Helen, who's going to share with you the why. So our story, and any story, always starts with the why. And Helen's going to share that with you. Helen.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. So anybody who is linked to any form of project that anyone's ever done, if you don't have a why, then it makes everything really difficult every step of the way, because everything that we've done over the 12 months of the project, we just kept linking it back to the why all the time. So this was our why, and it is all about being agile, creating that candidate experience, that whole candidate journey from beginning to the end, and then into their life as a colleague with us as well. So when we started out, it was really important that we identified very early on, before we even started to engage with any ATS provider, what our drivers were for that change. And if we weren't sure of what that was at that point, it was just going to make the whole selection process and partnering with our ATS providers really, really difficult. Within this part of the driving for change, we also partnered with different people from about the business. So all the touch points that this ATS was going to affect throughout the business, from all our funeral homes, our retail businesses, our business support centre, and all the support functions that were going to help us along the way, we partnered with them from the beginning to help us to build our requirements, to enable us then to go out to the marketplace to try and understand who was going to be the best fit as a provider for us. We had a really slow traditional recruitment system and process that we brought in a long time ago that was fit for purpose at the time, but it was made for us at that time and it had no agility in it. So as the marketplace was changing, as the candidate experiences were changing, and as we were changing as an organisation, we were unable to change with it. And then linking back to what Jen said about when we went into the pandemic, the system was not fit for purpose for us to be able to act at pace at that point for us. It was very disjointed, there was very inconsistent experiences because people were inevitably coming out of the process to try and circumnavigate it to make it fit. So that made inconsistent journeys for the candidates, and we had absolutely no data coming out of it. We knew how many vacancies we had, but that was all that we had. So for making data-led decisions as a business, we didn't have anything there, and that was really important for us. The final point I just want to build on that is that our onboarding process was all manual. So we had a wonderful group of people sat in our HR shared service that took 40 minutes to produce a contract, and then it all had to be input manually into our HR payroll system as well, so nothing was joined up. So candidates were waiting best part of a week for contracts to come through, and that's quite detrimental, particularly when markets are moving really, really quickly and candidates are moving quickly. We were losing candidates. So that was really important to us. So going on to what we wanted to do, again, with this group of people that we were talking to, we wanted to build that consistency brand message. So from beginning to end of candidates experiencing us from our website right the way through to interview, onboarding, and then into the business through their colleague journey, we wanted the tone of voice and the consistency of journey for them, and that was really important for us. We wanted a system that was fit for purpose for not just our colleagues, not just our candidates, but also our hiring managers. So we had to keep both journeys in our mind all the way along. And then the other big thing, going back to making sure that the onboarding journey was sufficient, it had to link into our current HR system. So they were the big things for us. So we got together a steering committee built of execs, stakeholders throughout the business, and we made sure that we had the right skills in the project team. Talking to our ATS providers before, it was interesting to hear that we were probably one of the first project teams that they dealt with that had hiring managers on the project team, that they were talking to the hiring managers as well, because that was really important to us, that everybody had the voice and they were hearing what was happening all the way through, and that this was done with them and not to them. So that was really important to us. And please don't underestimate the power of getting those stakeholders right first off, because as you'll hear later on in our lessons that we learned, that was just so important for having them on board, making really quick decisions. So we took all this into consideration, which then helped us to build our scope. Those scoping sessions then were held with each of the ATS providers that we'd chosen from a desktop and getting feedback from other people within the recruitment world, because that was my job at the time. I was the recruitment manager. And we very quickly navigated that down to 2 possibles, just because we had a very clear vision of what our requirements were. When we got it down to 2, again, it was really, really quick for us to make the decision as to who we were going to go with. And the people that we chose to go with were Eploy. And the reason why we chose that was not only because of the brilliant infrastructure that sat behind Eploy, but it was also about the partner, and it was about the people for us, because we're very much driven by our values and how we work. And it was really important that we had people who thought the same as us, felt the same as us, and really understood our business. And as you'll see on the slide here, the four first key areas for us were the hiring manager portal, so it had to be great for our hiring managers. We had a system where hiring managers were getting 100, 150 applications to work in one of our retail branches, and they had no way of navigating through that apart from going through absolutely every single one, and it was slow and laborious for them. So that was really important for us. Then the candidate portal, thinking about the demographics, thinking about those different demographics of age and all those different types of things, making sure that fitted in with them, and it was easy. Again, the offers and onboarding, which I spoke about earlier, and then the agency portal. We had a very clunky way of dealing with agencies, which unfortunately led sometimes to one candidate being submitted by 2 agencies, and then the war started, as I'm sure a lot of you have been through yourselves. This is all backed up by a brilliant API that now feeds from our application tracking system automatically overnight into our HR system, so there is no manual input whatsoever. And then the top bit about the marketplace is really important for us from an agility point of view moving forward as well. So not only are we from a marketplace linked into our ATS with our job boards, but we're now moving forward to look at the right to work checks and all those types of things that in the future that we can use and navigate through. So we're no longer in a stagnant point of view of just not being able to grow. So that has been really, really important for us. Hannah.
Thank you very much. So we've talked about the how, so what our pain points were and sort of why we've done it. So this is a little bit more around the approach of specifically how we tackled it and how we broke it down. The most important thing I think about the whole of the project was how we engaged with our various different work streams and the representation from a holistic perspective across the whole of our business. So Helen intimated to listening groups very, very early on in the project to be able to assign our scope and to understand the specifics and actually what the pain points were from the voices of the individuals around in the team. So we had around 14 different work streams ranging from our funeral homes, from our retail perspective, from a distribution centre, right the way through from a comms team, a marketing team, brand, our HR services admins, right the way through the business. And it's really important that we took each of the voices from each of our sort of business areas, if we like. We got them together like an Avengers assemble, and around a big table, shoulder to shoulder, with no hierarchy through the project at all. And it was really important that everybody had a voice and that they were equally listened to. And through governance and project management, it was around when do we engage, when do we inform, when do we consult, and when do we bring these voices to life? So it was really important to get this 360-degree view across the business, across the society, of specifically what we were doing and how we were going to tackle it. And so that everybody had a voice on the actual plan and everybody was bought into the plan. More specifically, it was around the co-creation. And again, it's using these voices as Avengers Assemble to create the scope of work, the hows, the whens, the communication plans that bled back into their own areas to be able to represent the project and ambassador the project, which essentially caused almost an effervescent sort of fizz, an excitement that the world was changing for them and that they were being listened to. It was really important as well to get the clear business case that was supported by the executives. So there were a few tripping hazards along the way, not going to lie. It wasn't a straightforward project, but certainly from a change management perspective, because we engaged so early on around the business, and because we engaged with our executives and our sponsors really early on, the tips and tricks that we did have in the tripping hazard, that we did have along the way, we only had, say, 30-minute conversations with them, because they all knew and they all were very engaged very early on, and they knew specifically where we were up to. And so it was about those sessions with them digitally to make a recommendation, make a decision, and move on so that we didn't procrastinate. There was always the time for us to go back and to learn those lessons and to have those open and honest conversations. But really, this was about progress and moving forward. We were doing that by the leveraging of the support and the lobbying of support from the executives and the sponsors. The ways of working, like I say, were really important. So we did this digitally, 100% digitally. So we met our suppliers, our partners, very, very early on face-to-face. But after that, it was 100% digitally, which made it difficult. You know, it was really hard. It was the first time we've ever done this as a society, first time we've ever done any form of implementation on this scale. It's not just a system swap out, it's much bigger than that. And it touches all aspects of our society. So the ways of working, the contracting with the teams, the playing back to our values, the openness, the honesty, how truth, the one version of the truth, and communicating around the whole of the project team was super important for us, again, to leverage those relationships. As Helen's mentioned already, we partnered with Eploy, and it certainly wasn't a supplier-customer relationship. It was very much shoulder to shoulder, very much a partnership. They helped to lead us and support us, but they also came into the business from a digital perspective, really lifted the lid and really supported us on making some of the decisions and also to scoping for the plan moving forward. We also partnered with an external brand agency called Fridays at 9. They were absolutely fantastic to try and support the employee value proposition, the EVP, which we went out with as on our website. You can see it's join us in creating a sustainable society for all. And also supported us with the tone of voice. So this was to help to create all of the emails and the notifications that were going to be sent from the system to our candidates, both internally and externally, and into the hiring managers as well, and also for the adverts and any of our advertisements across the different platforms too. As Helen's mentioned, we integrated with our technology iTrent. That's our Midland HR, were our vendors there, our existing one version of the truth. And we did that via an API. And just underpinning it all again is the communications and the engagement across the business, starting from scratch. Thank you. Pass back to Jen.
That's me, sorry. It's okay. So we launched our project, or our new ATS, back in December of last year. The first time we all got together, so that was quite nice. And I can't tell you how much it has actually transformed both the candidate and the hiring manager journey. We're getting such amazing feedback. I was in one of our stores the other week and was introduced to a new colleague, and they could not tell me enough how brilliant it was. But we've now got that best-in-class, consistent candidate journey. We've got a smart system that's got brilliant dashboards. It's given us such incredible data and will continue to give us brilliant data. Because it feeds into the iTrent system as well, we're now getting that diversity data through as well, which a lot of time, because they're completed in one system, they weren't going to complete in another system, and it was just a bit disjointed. So we're getting a really good view of that. We've got a really clear vision of the future. Our relationship with Eploy hasn't just stopped on the 1st of December. You know, they're sharing their roadmaps with us. They're taking feedback from us for things that they can change on the journey, which we will be, we will see the benefits of. So we're not on a standalone system. It will just update as we go through. We've got that consistent brand message, that tone of voice that's right the way through the business. We chose Fridays at 9 because they've done our commercial tone of voice as well. So even as a customer, a colleague, and a candidate, it's exactly the same tone of voice. They've got a greater understanding of who we are. So we've now got our own voice, our own story on our website that is really indicative to who we are as an organisation. Everything's automated, which is making everybody's life wonderful, apart from, as opposed to waiting 5 to 7 days for a contract, people are getting it instantly, which is just absolutely groundbreaking for us. And what's been really, really amazing is that even in the first couple of weeks, that massive uplift in people visiting the website and candidates, some of the jobs, I mean, one of the managers said to me, I've had that same job on 3 times, and in one hit on this new system, I've had 3 times the amount of brilliant candidates, not just candidates, really good candidates. And we had some of the business support centre ones, didn't we, where we've had to go out to agencies normally, and we've been able to fill it direct just because of the new system, which has just been wonderful. The insights, the data that we spoke about, and then in 6 months' time, well, 6 months from the date, we're going to do one big massive review of the whole thing, and we'll do that in conjunction with Eploy as well. Okay.
So we said at the beginning that I think a massive part for us all coming out of a project is the whole continuous improvement mindset and how we take our learnings forward. And we really wanted to come today and be really kind of transparent with you about our learnings, because for me, having that open learning mindset means that you continue to improve. So we've captured our key learnings here, and we're very, very happy to expand on these if you've got any questions specifically. But I think we'd like to kind of each pull out one for us, which for us, particularly in the work and for our roles in the work, is really, really important. I'm going to be a little bit greedy actually, because as we were going through, I thought I've actually got 2. So my first would be to the first point about having a clear vision and business case. We have a really, really robust governance process at Central England, and actually we learnt a lot through developing the business case for this programme and what the return on investment would be, because with a lot of things like how we value and put a pound sign against hiring managers' time that they can then release to do other things, that's actually quite tricky. But when you're talking to the exec and you're presenting your business case, don't underestimate the value of that, because as the world is changing and continually changing, the recruitment market is so quick now, and we need to constantly keep ahead of it. We're also driving for efficiencies in store. So when we're talking about being able to save two hours a day on line managers sifting through applications, multiplied by 260 stores, that's actually massive. So I think all those kind of factors build into your business case, because it makes a huge, huge difference. And typically these were activities that store managers would be taking home and doing in the evening, which from a kind of building a sustainable society for all doesn't sit right with our values. So that would be my first one. And the second one would be about the communication and regular drumbeat of engagement. This personally for me was a massive learning, and in hindsight, even though we thought we were doing a great job on communication and engagement, we should have started earlier. So it's that whole thing about starting from day one. And when I talk about communication, I also mean listening, because I think listening is a massive part. You know, when you're working in an organisation that is field-based, it's listening to colleagues, store managers, our colleagues at the support centre, and just making sure that we are listening and hearing and doing something with what they're telling us. And also, even though I thought, kind of as we got 6 months into the programme, that we were doing a really good job at keeping people updated, in hindsight, I would have done more. So that would be my kind of key learning, those 2 areas: building a robust business case with clear return on investment and approach to communication and engagement. Helen.
Thank you. I'll just stick with the one. So the biggest thing for me, my gift to you, is around how you look to the long-term future. Not just about where you are now as an organisation and what it is that you're looking for. You know, we've got the biggest amount from an age generation point of view working together at the moment and applying for our jobs, and it needs to be fit for purpose for all. So look into the future, look for the people that you're looking to attract, and think about your base at the moment, because we've got a huge membership base as well, so we need to think about that from our client point of view. Huh?
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'll just keep to one, actually. So for me, it's a tricky one, really, because It's all about the difference for me between project management and change management. So project management, you've always got your eye on the time, the cost and the scope, which is great in all well and good in normal projects. But this was genuinely transformational for the society, genuinely transformational within the ways of working at the time. And so we had to fall back on reassessing the change management all the time. So who was going to be involved? You know, what specifically were they going to need to be doing? And assessing this in the whole of the change landscape. So it's about aligning the whole of your business at the same time and coming to a point where it's the right time from a capacity planning perspective, from a chronology of all the different changes that are going on within the businesses or your businesses and organisations at that time. It's being able to find that sweet spot of lining it all up and being adaptable to it, being flexible and also being resilient, you know, making those changes. Sometimes you've got to stand up and be brave and you go, actually, that shouldn't be in scope anymore. And it's keeping your eye on that vision and staying true to it forever, you know, throughout that project and going, do you know what, if this isn't the right thing to do and it doesn't align with our vision, be brave enough to stand out there and go, well, this isn't for us then, we need to drop it from the scope. And to just keep your arms around humans. When it was the digital way of working, you know, some of our teams really struggled. And it's about putting that digital arm around them and having that extra virtual cup of tea with them to go, do you know what, you need to empower them to just, and trust them to move on through this project. And like I said before, there's always a place for the lessons learned, and you can always go back and you can always, you know, reevaluate what would you do differently, what would you do better, what can you learn from it. But really, to create that resilience, it's drawing a line in the sand and moving forward and keep the progress going, just for the vision of the project and keeping it true. Thank you, Jen.